I'll go ahead and call the special called finance meeting, budget hearing for September 10th. Ms. Melody, if you'll call roll.
Yes, Dr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Thames?
Here.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Here.
Ms. Smith? Here. And Mr. Harden?
Here.
You have a quorum, everybody's present.
All right. We have minutes that were distributed for the meeting on the 8th. Is there a motion to dispense with the reading and approve them as distributed?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Mrs. Smith, second by Mr. Thames. Any other discussion? Thank you for putting that together. I know you've got a few things going on right now.
I'm sorry.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. That's 5-0. Okay, we're continuing our meeting with general, and then we will get into capital. We have a few people that will be kind of speaking to us tonight, and I guess people will be coming in and out. So let's go ahead and pick up where we left off, Robert.
Yes, sir.
And before we do that, on finance, are there items we want to make sure that we cover tonight? We're going to try to get through capital if we can, but we might not be able to make it all the way through. I want to take a break at 5:30, just for a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll reconvene. Are there any items that want to make sure that we cover or add? You can see the items that are shown below. We added, as you know, the parking management RFI. That's under capital discussion. 0602, that's also capital. 200220, that is capital. 11, let's see. Okay, we've already dispensed with 1103 20 is general. And then we're, as you know, as I mentioned in our last meeting, we had not budgeted for a Zoom call and meeting tonight. So Monday we will get to the council approval for additional funding to have these. I was trying to be a good steward, and I know Mr. Higginbotham had requested that. So we're here, and we'll just have to expend those additional funds for having the budget meetings in here. So I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. That's procedurally how we're going to handle it. It's going to be a budget amendment for this particular fiscal year of adding that, and then probably we'll need to have that for next year, I guess. So, yes, sir, Mr. Walton.
Well, Councilor Higginbotham was waiting.
Yeah, I was going to recognize
okay.
that. I thought you
well, I was going to make a comment about the sessions. Can we ask Jetty Trip to ensure that Jetty Trip ensure they've covered the other meetings in their quote as well? Because I know there was a lot of meetings he covered that were not in his original scope, I believe.
Yes, we went over that on Tuesday night, and I believe we have that covered, but we need to make sure. We might have to bring Brian out here to
previous meetings.
And I think also we're going to be meeting with Brian to talk about some of the items that we discussed before we get into, exact numbers. Because we discussed the other night, on Tuesday night, the reduction of the cost based on what he had originally budgeted. So we can go over that, Andy, I think, in the context of that meeting, make sure that we've got everything. We've got him compensated for all the things that he's done, either going forward or in the past.
And then lastly, before I recognize you, I was going to have a conference call available tonight. Remember, and we asked Mr. Yates to have that conference call ready, and so that's how I was going to do it in the other room, but we obviously canceled that, so we're not having a conference call in addition to Zoom. It's all part of the Zoom call. So yes, Mr. Higginbotham.
I simply wanted to say thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That
was it. That was the extent of my remark.
You're welcome. So I want to make sure that I mean, all respect each other and what we want to do, and so I think that's the way we need to approach everything that we do as a council. So you are welcome. Thank you. Yes?
Just one comment, make sure I understood, on the jetty trip item that, I put it on committee referral for Monday night to go to not sure Monday, it'll go to the next meeting. I didn't put other new business, is that how you wanted it?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Okay, so let's jump in. Where were we, Robert? What tab?
Well, if I could, we were under tab 3, but if we could go to tab, I'm gonna back up a page, go to tab 3, page 6, under the contractual services.
Yes.
There's 2 items that I would ask that y'all remove from the budget. There were budget resolutions, one in the amount of $234 and one in the amount of $7,272. And we would like to remove those for a total savings of $7,506. Page 6, near the bottom, 4 lines up.
Those 2 adjustments?
Yes, sir. They should not have been in this year's budget.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Tame, seconded by Mr. Higginbotham. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. Robert, if you have those, just keep bringing them. Come on, more.
Find as many as we can.
We like you, exactly.
And we got through, we made the final amendment to the Transit Authority, was really the last act that we did, and that takes us to general fund, general government supplies. We start with the line items.
And just to recap that, to refresh everybody's memory, we got a 30% discount. Thank you to the representatives who met with the Transit Authority. I happened to be there, but you were leading the charge. So we got under the CARES Act a discount. So that's a big saving. So on page 7, that 245,377, we reduced that to 194,539. So nice job with that. So, and we're keeping the Magic City Connector, so that's great. Everybody's enjoying that. So thank you for everyone who worked on that to get that accomplished. Okay, so I guess we're just going to keep moving down here. Are there any, let's see, in terms of general government, any questions on page 7 anyone might have? Generally our power bill and things like that have been consistent, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
they've been very consistent with.
Okay. And I know when we get to the police department, we need to make sure we look at that to see what the estimates are. We seem to never, we get close, but it's so hard to determine what cost is going to be in a new building, so.
Hey, Robert, power company will give discounts to people who maybe have a lot with them. Do we see anything like that out of them?
I'm sorry, you said discount
Sometimes
with?
I think you can go to the power company and say, hey, we got this property, this property, this property.
Oh, yes, sir, we do several things with them, consolidated billing. We received a rebate from them 2 years ago of about $250,000 when they've done some energy audits for us. So we tried, Berkeley usually works with them more directly, and he's up on trying to get as much savings from them as we can.
Thank you.
Yeah, and in fact, that was part of the energy audit where we looked at every street light in the city, and it ended up being over $250,000 savings that we're able to. And Ms. Smith, kind of you led that effort.
Well, not
Were you-
the same, but yeah, Berkeley really, I don't think that Berkeley was really good.
Well, that was an important thing, and it was a big savings. Did you have something?
Yeah, I
Mr.
just,
McCluskey?
right, I guess, the telephone communication, the requested budget's 55,000, and like, this year's budget was 36, and if you look back at the other numbers, they're lower. I'm just curious what the increase in
So at the
in
bottom
the
of
telephone
page 7,
communication was for.
communication is up.
Telephone communication.
Yes, it's an input system
Okay.
from
It's for
It-
the safety center, is that what?
No, that is just the new phone systems that will go in when we completely convert to the internet phones. I'd have to get James to fully explain it, but yeah, it's for new phones.
So the annual cost will go up, or is this kind of an initial one-time bump to get all the equipment and everything, and then we'll go back to saving money?
I believe,
in
if
the
I
next
understood
years?
him correctly, it will be an increase in the phone charge for those additional phones that were added,
Okay.
as well as the new type of phones that were being added.
Can we make a note to get a
Absolutely.
report on that? Because with technology, a lot of that should not be increased unless he's adding additional phones or, different things like that.
All righty,
So
I will
We can
ask.
just find that out.
All right,
A note.
thank you, Chairman.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, moving on to page 8. We're still in general government expenditures. You can see a lot of these are miscellaneous charges. What time was Amy going to be here for the Sims Garden? I told her like around 6 or something. We're flexible.
Okay.
But
She just sent me a text. She asked any idea how long she, when she be able to be here. I think mostly what she wants to talk to us about is the capital expenditures, but.
yeah,
So does that make, should I put, should I tell them it?
yeah, say 6.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think her request was more on the capital side, but there were some additional requests on general, but 50,000, I've got to pull my notes on that.
30.
Yeah,
Exceptional's 50 under.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Sims
this year, we
is 30,
broke,
you're
we
right.
broke out the Sims Garden out of the capital line, and it was combined with just building improvements. We made it its own separate line item in general fund, because that's mostly for repair and maintenance of the property.
Yeah, and she did mention something about that to me, so maybe we can ask her all those questions.
Okay.
When she gets here.
Okay.
I did want to ask one question.
Sure.
Let me turn on my microphone. I know that drives Brian crazy. So last year on the Historic Preservation Commission, y'all have $2,500 down. Last year, Susan Zuber, who was the chair at the time, requested additional funds because they were doing the Pink House movie that debuted after that. So I think their budget last year was actually $5,000.
It was actually 15,000.
Oh, it's
15 we carried
15,000?
over. Yeah, we carried over.
Okay,
Oh.
so, well, that's
No.
right, because we had carryover money
Right.
from the previous years.
It was like
So-
15,194. It was a weird number because we had encumbrances out there.
Okay, so, right, this year we have 2,500 budgeted.
75.
75.
7,500. The 25 is actually spent through Gene.
So I think the
Okay.
request was for 7,500, and that's,
That's what's in there.
Okay.
wasn't that the request?
I think I'm just looking at the wrong line. I'm looking at the Prescott House. Sorry,
I know.
that's my bad.
We need better lighting in here, I can't see.
I mean, I'm really,
I can't-
well, my eyes are
I
also.
can't-
They did work on it today. Lee and the building maintenance are working on the lights over there today.
So, okay, so 7,500, and I know Eddie Griffith, who is the person, who is kind of the chair in, for right now, he wants to be temporary, he does not want to be forever. What did Brian just say? Let me just ask.
Yeah,
let me
yeah,
look.
pull that up.
Yeah, let me see.
Because every one of these expenses that are here under general government, it needs to be linked as to a benefit to Homewood citizens. And so that's really what we look at with all of these items, and, what is the true benefit? We have had budget hearings where we have actually asked every organization to come in and present. I felt like for time purposes, we didn't really have that, but if anyone would like to, there's a proposal for every one of these organizations, and if anyone wants to look at what the proposal is, they did submit the proposal, and they, provided the information in terms of, how Homewood residents participate in this program, and what is the benefit to the city. So that's part of this, and this is a very important page that we're kind of looking at here, so.
Now that I'm looking at the right item, I think that 75, I cannot find this email from Eddie about that, because he sent an email to the mayor this week after Tuesday night from our meeting.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
And this may actually go to Mike, and I know Andrew said he was on Zoom. The West Homewood Neighborhood Street Fair,
Yeah.
that was 8,000, and it looks like it's 8,000 again. Did they actually spend the 8,000 for this year? I know that there was, because of.
Year-to-date here says 8,000.
Okay, I just didn't know if they got it but didn't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because of the COVID.
Because of COVID, because did they not cancel both of the events that were there?
That's a good point, but it says year-to-date 8,000.
I am thinking, if I remember correctly, the vendors were paid, they are not refunding that money, and if I remember correctly, they're going to provide that service next year.
Okay, so the reason I was
So
asking
do we need
was
to
because we
budget
budgeted-
another
Yeah,
8,000?
I thank you, because I forgot that they were.
That's the
Yes.
That's the
Yeah.
question.
Right. They have, if I remember correctly, they have been paid, and this was, I think, they're just, if Berkeley told me correctly, they're just going to hold that money and provide the services that they were going to do. Tents, they rent tents and such, is that correct?
Yes.
Well, yes,
Okay.
bouncy houses and I mean, all sorts of.
Yeah.
The reason I was asking, and Andrew, you may be able
The
to.
West Homewood Street Fair.
Hey, Robert.
That's Andrew.
Where's-
Andrew,
oh.
go ahead. Go
Yes,
ahead.
sir.
Yeah, my understanding, and I could be wrong, I can double check on this, but my understanding is the payment up front was for the back to school bash, which is predominantly through the Parks and Rec Department. The festival in May that was canceled, I'm not sure, but I can confirm whether or not that's done the same way or not.
Because this just says the street fair.
Yeah, this was the.
Yeah, the event that they have in the spring.
Well,
Well,
that's what we named the account the first year that we ever put it up there, because it was for the street fair. When, I think Justin Limbaugh made the request the first year, but we may need to just title it something different, but that's what we made the account name.
And I only asked, Mr. Chairman, because I didn't want to, if they were going to use that rollover from what they received last year, I'd hate to budget it again for this year.
Okay, can you make a note on
I
that?
can, I can check on that,
Yeah,
because
check on that. So we might need to take that down to zero if they were not able to use it this fiscal year. Okay, so make a note of that, and we'll come back to that.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, if be appropriate at this time. Actually, I have several questions, but I'll start with my first one. Let me take off my glasses, because I've gotten old and I can't see things close up unless I take off my glasses. So I noticed that we completely zeroed out Wind Roof this year, and actually appears to be the only organization that we funded last year that we're zeroing out this year. Wind Roof is the coordinating agency for the Homeless Continuum of Care for Central Alabama, so they are an overarching group that works with all the homeless organizations here. I would really like to see keep money in the budget for Wind Roof, and I just had a question as to why that was zeroed out.
Yeah, that, we need to find out. JJ, do you know the answer to that?
I presented a list of items to the mayor for him, and basically said, Mayor, we got to find some savings, and that was one of the items that was stricken from the list, as well as, not in this particular line item, but as well as many other items that were reduced or stricken.
Well, and I guess my position would be, if we need to cut X thousand dollars from these non-departmental expenditures, I don't have an objection to that, but I would prefer an approach that looked at it with a little bit of, I guess, what I would call shared pain, that we cut everybody a little bit rather than zero outing an agency that does something that none of these other groups even begin to do.
Well, and Mike, I'll say, I had looked when I was trying to find additional money for the Historic Preservation Society. I looked and noticed that, you know, we give $25,000 to the Birmingham Zoo, which I love the zoo, but I think that when we're talking about organizations that are boards and things that are in our city, but also other organizations, that we could maybe, like you said, maybe make it a shared pain
Sure.
across the board.
I mean, to me, it's more important to invest in the feeding care of human beings as opposed to feeding care of animals. I like the zoo very much. My son was there all the time growing up. But it seems to me we could, you know, shave some here and shave some there. I'd also love, well, let me stick on one issue at a time. I've got another one, but, so, I don't know the best way for me to approach that, Mr. Chairman. I would look
Do
to
you
you.
recommend putting the funding in?
I would recommend returning the one roof funding to $5,000.
$5,000?
That, I put that in the form of a
Is
motion.
that a motion?
I put it in the form of a motion, yes.
And I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Mrs. Smith. Okay.
Any reason we haven't, well, we go ahead and vote first.
Okay, any discussion on that motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign, that passes 5-0.
I was just curious why we haven't expended the 5,000 budgeted for this year.
We're trying to.
Which is that, Meals on Wheels, or?
No.
One roof.
Or
Yeah.
we've received the contract and the invoice,
Okay.
So it will be,
and Meals on Wheels as well.
Bill, yeah, is that what you're saying?
Y'all have to approve on the 14th, then we'll pay it.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna ask about, same question really about class tran. I mean, I noticed we funded just whatever, what we had. We carried forward what still hadn't been expended for this year. I was just curious, we just hadn't got a bill from them this year?
I'm sorry,
class trend.
Class tran.
Class Tran.
That's right. Yeah, it's-
We're budgeting the same amount that the year.
That's what we received, that they requested us, the 16,842. That is the actual request from Class Tran.
Even though we haven't, okay.
Yeah,
So
we-
that-
they've been paid.
That's what we've expected.
Okay, you're right. So we expend, that's what we expended this year, and they just wanted the same thing. Okay, good.
Okay, and hold on, Ms. Trigginbotham has 3 more items.
Oh, sorry, Mike.
It may be 3, I don't know.
Okay.
Several.
Okay.
One of them's a quick question, so I'll go with that one first, because that'll be easier. What does other expenses cover?
That's
The line item, other expenses,
That's
which
the
is...
mayor's discretionary funds.
Okay. Because okay, it's the mayor's discretionary funds. All right, just trying to understand what that line item was. Because I saw it only spent $1,765, and there was 20 grand in there, so, but I know we're changing administrations, there'll be a new mayor, and we want to be fair. I noticed mature tree planting, we're only putting $6,000 in. Is there a reason for that? We're just going to scale back?
That was the
our-
amount to carry over that we
Uh-huh.
had left over from last year. We had not received a request. I sent an email out to Amy Milam to see if she could get us some information on a number, and she was not able to provide a number, but she said she is pretty confident that there will be mature tree planting next year, but that's the only number that we had to carry over.
Well, and
Okay.
thank you for bringing that up, Councilor Higginbotham. I wanted to also share, one of the Environmental Commission members reached out to me and did request that we fund it to some extent, though they understood that there may have to be cuts this year compared to what it has been, but I think it's crucial that we do fund this to some extent more than $6,000 as a continuing program for our city's canopy, long-term.
But do
So-
we have a proposal? Do we have a proposal?
We do not.
Well, could I address that just?
Yes, please.
as an observation? This is something that we ourselves teased out of the HEC budget, so I'm not sure that they're necessarily responsible for bringing us a mature tree planting amount of money, because the council made that a different thing. So it seems to me the council should be the one to volunteer that number as opposed to HEC. I just simply think this number may be lower than what we need. That's just an observation, because we took that out of their purview, if you will. Anyway.
Well, I think the intention was, yeah, we did take it out, I think, so we can keep a line of sight on it as a dollar figure, to know what we're putting into planting, instead of just putting it in their budget, and then every year, like, what'd this money go to? I think they would be happy, in the discussions that I've had, they would be happy to have it back in their budget, but I do like it personally as a separate item, so that we can see our historical commitment to the canopy. I had another thought and it just went away.
Well, the only thing I would add to that, Mr. Waltney, would be that if our expectation is the HEC should volunteer a number for us, then I think we need to be clear with them that they need to do that. Amy is no longer chair of the HEC.
Well, I understand that, but she is in contact with Mr. Hughes more than I am, and I was just trying to get information.
Sure. I'm just saying if we're going to expect somebody else to give us that number, then we need to make sure they know that they need to.
I mean, I did ask several people to try to determine the number. I did not come to council, but.
Sure.
And that's why we just carried over the fund balance that was there.
And I don't know what that number should be, but I'm willing to hear from anybody.
They're roughly, if I remember correctly, the mature trees that we were putting in were about 900 each. So if we budgeted 25, you're looking at roughly, 27 trees. Yeah.
Well, who executed on
Henry
naming
and,
these trees?
Henry and Amy, remember, we put it out for bid.
Okay.
So-
They had done a survey of the city and located the proper, or the locations they wanted to start with, some school locations, some park locations, things like that, and put it out for bid. And I think, as I recall, we actually allocated 55 prior to all of that last year. It's just a good round number to start with. And I think the intention was to probably keep a similar number, 50 or 55 each year until we'd finished in the right-of-ways. Now, I would like to see something, but I do agree that given the current atmosphere, everybody should expect a little pain, but more than 6,000.
I would just expand on that to the extent that I think at some point, the next phase of a mature tree planting program is finding ways to encourage residents to also replace trees that are aging out on their properties, because that's the largest land base we have for adding those trees.
Okay.
And can I ask a question? And I know Berkeley's not here. Is planting trees in the Green Springs medians part of the plan? It's not, so.
Not part of the mature.
No, but that's part of that project. Okay, so that's that part of it. Those trees are going to be planted as part of that project. Okay.
Okay, well, I just don't have enough information in terms of what what the recommendation is based on their experience from, or our experience from last year. I mean, do we want to keep it level? I mean, is that, or do we want to provide 25,000 like Mr. Waltney said, or what? I just don't have enough understanding of what we have left and what the overall plan is. That's kind of where I would like to get some.
We do, Mr. Chairman, we do have a representative from the HEC here. I don't know if he has any thoughts on that number, but if it would be appropriate for him to come at this time and share his thoughts.
We need as much help as we can get right here.
Hey, could you state your name for the record?
Sure. First name Matt, M-A-T-T, last name Rich, R-I-C-H.
Thank you. Are you with
Environmental.
HEC?
Yes, ma'am. So I'm the treasurer for HEC. Thank y'all for letting us come in and see this. So I'm with you, Councilor Gwaltney. I would say that keeping the tree budget separate would actually be a good thing for the city, and one of the reasons for that, I would make that recommendation. We are a Tree City USA. One of the parts of being a Tree City USA is that we have to have a certain amount of expenditures for trees, and going into the HEC budget, it could be, I won't say, it'd be pretty easy to get muddled into our budget and into other things. It's really easy as far as a city. If we see within the budget a line item that says mature tree planting and we do it, it's easy for us as the HEC to present to the Tree City USA Commission, this is how much we have spent on that, as opposed to it being into our particular budget. So I think that's a fantastic idea. As far as the number, it's a good question. What it should be. We do have to spend, I think it's $2 per capita to be able to Tree City USA, and that would be on everything trees. That would be taking down trees, planting trees, everything that you can think about that. So that may be part of why we have such a high number as well in there. So, but that's. Oh yeah, we get it. Yeah. Well, that's the funny part about Tree City USA. Everybody sees that number like Mountain Brook and everything else, like, oh, they must have a lot of trees. Well, technically, if you read it, you can actually, put that in there for taking down trees too. So you could be a Tree City USA and spend a lot of money on taking down trees. But yes, we do. Yes. Yeah.
So I was going to say, Matt, do do you think you guys would be comfortable with the $25,000, which is, I think, the number that Mr. Gwaltney kind of floated out there? I mean, I know it's lower than last time, but if everybody's going to, you know.
Right, no, absolutely. If we're going to have to take a, take a cut somewhere, I think that would be.
Just throwing
Go
a
ahead.
number out, I'd prefer to have the full amount if we can.
Oh, okay.
I think we can plant them.
No,
I
I
was just
think-
talking, well, trying to find common ground since we're going to
Sure.
be making cuts across the board in certain places. I don't know that I would like to keep the ratio the same as other cuts that we've made if we're going to make them. So maybe a 50% cut's not the right way to go.
Yeah, I would say that I am not going to answer in ignorance. I am going to say that I'm not the expert here to tell you exactly what that would be. I know at least from our experience, for Councilor Waltney, you were talking about, is there a residential trying to get somebody to do it? I do want to speak to that at least a little bit. We, as you probably saw in the Homewood Star, very bottom of the fold down there, the residential tree planting program, trees do this, this, and this. We do have a residential tree program that helps people at least provide a subsidy so that they can plant trees in their yard. Some of these places that are great places to plant them, unfortunately, are right-of-way spaces. Especially West Homewood, where I am, Raleigh Avenue would be a great place to put it. Unfortunately, a lot of those places are right-of-way. But we do have those. It's coming up very soon. So for anybody that's watching on Zoom or here in the room, or we'll watch it on YouTube, we would love to talk to you about
Okay, how
getting
about
some trees in your yard.
40,000?
40,000.
I move to fund the line at $40,000.
Okay, moved by Mr. James, second by Mr. Harden. We love talking about trees. Okay, any other discussion? All in
Is that
favor,
easy,
say
Tom?
aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign, 5-0, that passes. So we'll
That's-
increase that
What's your tree
40,000.
What's your tree plan?
John, is that easy enough?
Mature tree planting, okay.
Matt, the best way to look at that is you just increased by more than 6 times what you already had in the budget here, so.
Yes.
It's like having a talk with the wife of increasing the budget right there, Mike.
That's right, thank you. And we might call on you again in a minute. Okay, next.
I got one last item that I wanted to discuss. And I know we've got to cut somewhere. I'm just going to raise the issue because I think it's worth us considering as a council. We've reduced the amount to Red Mountain Park from $25,000 to $15,000. Red Mountain Park, as I understand it, was completely zeroed out of the city of Birmingham's budget, which I would imagine was probably their principal source of funding.
It was.
If we are honest with ourselves about who is actually going to Red Mountain Park to use the facilities, it's not mostly people from the city of Birmingham anyway. It's our constituents that are going to use those facilities. And I just think we ought to take a conscientious look at whether we need to step up on that particular service in particular, because I know how much it benefits people here in the city of Homewood. I have not had a conversation with the executive director from Red Mountain Park. This is just
I can
me
speak
as
to
a
that.
council person saying, here it is. So I know that Jennifer's chomping at the bit, so I'm going to let her in.
Well, as you know, I'm on the state commission for Red Mountain Park, and 35209 is the #1 zip code that does support the park. And we were zeroed out of the city of Birmingham budget to the tune of $100,000. So we literally have to beg, borrow, and steal with our hands out everywhere we go. So anything that we can do.
Okay, so is your motion, keep that level?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Does anybody know what happened with the zoo in the budget for the city of Birmingham? Do we know that?
I don't have that information.
No, I know there was 4 things they zeroed out, but I don't recall the zoo being one of the 4.
I wouldn't imagine that it was. I'm just wondering if we could reduce the funding for the zoo to make up some of this other funding to some of these other places.
Yeah, we need to with all the increases we're making, so.
And my observation would be that when I came onto the council, we weren't funding the zoo at all. And we had in the past, and we cut it because of budgetary reasons, and so it seems to me whatever the zoo gets at this point is gravy, since we for many years gave them nothing. So I would be more than happy to split some of the money up a little bit more, because again, here's what I'm going to say, and then I promise you, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be quiet about this issue anyway. If we do not fund the zoo at this level, I'm not concerned about whether the zoo will be here next year. I am concerned about Red Mountain Park, because I know this previous year they already had a lot of financial struggles. Right. And for the city of Birmingham to cut them $100,000, I can't imagine.
Our budget's $250,000 a year.
It's colossal. So I'm much more worried about whether this organization that benefits so many residents of Homewood will continue to exist than I am about the zoo, because I'm not worried about whether the zoo will be here next year. I think it will. They do a fantastic fundraising job, but I am concerned about Red Mountain Park. But I will let somebody else make the motion.
I will say that we're asking the city of Birmingham, currently we signed a contract for them to do our security. And so we are asking the city of Birmingham to provide that at no cost. So that would offset that budget, but that's our budget. And we get 50 from the state, we get 50 from the county. We have memberships, but all of our adventure has been cut. There's not any revenue coming in from the adventure at all. So, we really are month to month. I'm not kidding. It's dire. And that, when you think about the benefit that it has, and it really is, our history. It is why we're all sitting here, because of the work that was put in that mountain, so.
Okay, well, I don't want to be the one who's going to start slashing the zoo's budget, but would anybody feel comfortable? So it might as well be me. Well, I don't know, I'll just take the bullet for everybody. So what if we reduced the zoo funding from 25 to? Yes, John, join me, won't you? Join me on the edge of the cliff. Come out here with me. 10 or 15, what do you think?
Lower it to 20?
I was going to say 10 or 15, actually.
Okay.
What do you think, John?
motion or a very motion?
We're collab-having on what that motion is. I'm happy to make the
I
motion.
move to reduce the zoo line item to 10,000.
Second.
There we go.
Okay, moved by Mr. Thames, seconded by Mr. Harden.
And I would also move, we got a vote, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, okay. My thought, that's too much of a cut, but I'll go with the majority. I feel like that's too much. But all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. 5-0. And then we want to move Red Mountain Park to what?
I would move Red Mountain Park to 25. So that the reduction of the zoo would cover the increase to Red Mountain and one roof.
Yes.
Second.
Good call.
Okay, moved by Mr. Thames, seconded by Mr. Harden. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. That passes 5-0.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
Right here. I have a proposal that I think could also save us some money. Travel and conference for elected officials. Considering the year ahead of us and the unknowns, I think drastic circumstances or drastic measures are required. I would be okay zeroing that line out to also find savings.
We can't completely
We
zero.
do have to,
We
we
can't.
have to send the new council people, there are some classes that the new people have to go to.
Okay.
We have to leave some.
And I
What's
go to
the-
all the conferences. I'm the only one that goes to the conferences.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But we
This is-
didn't,
but- What's the-
if you look back on when it's election year, when the new people come, there's like some league training they have to go to,
Yeah.
they have to pay for.
So to that extent, what's the minimum we could fund this? And I would even cut the national trip just to, we've got to save money somewhere. Let's save money if we want to
If
allocate
you
it
still look
to.
at 16-17, it was up to $8,000 because that's when the new council came on.
You could probably safely reduce it to 10,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you got an 8367 and 8200, so you're averaging about 7,500. But y'all may have a better feel for what the real expenses are, but certainly it doesn't need to be 14.
Well, with the new council, I feel like we're going to need training and we're going to need some expenses for that. I'm not going to speak for Mr. Wyatt, but that's kind of what.
There's going to have to be some training, but I.
No, I agree.
I think we can cut it.
Yeah, they were saying $8,000 would be the base to accomplish the training for the new council members.
Because it looks like, like you said, Melody, in the 2016 election year, that was $8,386. It's been lower since then, but that was an election year, so that's when we went to training, or whoever went to training. So would we feel comfortable doing 10,000? Because that would still be more than that cost in 2016, assuming that costs have gone up, which they probably have.
Yeah, I think that's.
Okay, that's your motion.
10 would sort of be the
Okay,
ceiling.
I'll make a motion to reduce the travel and conference for elected officials line item to 10,000 from 14.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Smith, second by Mr. Higginbotham. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign, 5-0. That passes.
Mr. Jones, you voted for the zoo too, though, right? Correct, 5-0, the zoo.
Yeah.
Mr. Jones? Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Jones,
He didn't like it.
I know, that's what I'm asking.
Yes, sir.
I received a request today from the Birmingham beautification, Birmingham, I'm looking at Birmingham Zoo, I'm sorry, from the beautification board. The mayor had budgeted $10,000 in that line item, and we got a request for $11,515 total. They want to buy some Christmas decorations.
Robert, I can speak to that.
Okay.
We have a line item for holiday lighting too, and I was going to mention that, and I was going to talk about the 10,000 as well.
Well, I was going to say that you had 7 in holiday lighting. I didn't know if it needed to be combined or not.
Well, what I think, okay, and I will say, let me chime in and say that Daryl from Birmingham just said, I'm fairly certain the zoo's allocation has been significantly reduced, so it looks like Birmingham has cut the zoo back as well on their funding, so just for whatever that's worth. Okay, so Robert, so what I was going to say about that is, you know, we've been on this multi-year plan to go through the whole city and update the street poles and the street lights and the, you know, the downtown with the wreaths and with the snowflakes. So that request for this coming year is $11,515. So our budget, separate of holiday lighting, because that's been separate, has been $10,000 a year, and we haven't spent anything this year because we haven't done anything since COVID. So they were trying to put a project together, and they met on Tuesday night, and what they came up with was going through the city and painting any of the street signs that needed to be updated to the black ones, because there's still some that are just regular green street lights, and they wanted to paint some of the, you know, the poles look bad, and Randy can spray paint them, but it's not the same as having it professionally painted. So they were going to get that budget for me before September 30th, but I can carry that over. Like, we can just not spend that in this fiscal year and wait until October 1, if you would like to do that. If we could go maybe up on the lighting. So the lighting, you've got 7,000, but if we could go up to 11,000, and we'll just carry that 10,000 over from this past year to next year and let them do the street signs with that.
When you say street signs, are you talking about residential street signs?
Yes.
Well, historically, that cost is split by the residents in the city. So if a street wants a decorative sign, it's $150, as I recall, and so 75 to the city, 75.
Well, what about the painting? Because Randy said he could paint it, but it wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't last.
Painting existing signs?
Yes, correct, yeah. Because some of them are looking rusted, and anyway, that was just one of the projects that they had sort of explored, but what I'm saying is, let's carry over this last fiscal year 10,000, don't give them another 10, but if you'll fund the holiday lighting.
Okay, holiday
You're
lighting's
asking
at
to
7.
increase the beautification board to 20,000?
No, I'm saying, we have
Keep it
not
level
spent
at
any money
10.
this year, and I'm saying we will not spend any money until October 1, and then we'll just take that past last $10,000 and carry it over. Does that make sense?
She's wanting to take holiday lighting from 7,000 to what?
I want the holiday lighting to be 11,000.
515.
Hold on. 11,515.
Instead of 7,000?
Correct.
And
Does that make
zero
sense
out
what I'm saying about
okay.
that?
Holiday lighting goes to the window.
Right.
Barry, can you make that note? Can you understand what she's
Zero out
asking?
yes.
I don't understand.
Correct.
I
what-
can't hear anything.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble understanding what you want us to do.
Right, so, well, I get that.
Can you net it out?
I can try.
Mr. White, thank you.
So if I understand you correctly, is that there is still $10,000
Yes.
in the current year's budget
Correct.
for the beautification board?
That's right.
Correct.
That they're not going to spend in this year?
This fiscal year.
So she wants to use that 10,000.
She just wants to carry that.
Carry it over.
Well, that's what we're doing.
It's
Right.
already in there.
I mean, we're budgeting $10,000.
Right,
She's just
that's
saying
right.
she don't want an additional 10,000
That's
for
right.
next.
I'm saying we're not going to spend our 10,000.
No, I got you.
So we're
Okay.
removing that.
So really, the only motion, the only motion is that we want to raise the holiday lighting line item, which is down
From
the way a little
7,000?
bit, to 11,515. Is that correct, Robert?
Yes, ma'am.
That's correct.
Thank you.
So that's all that we're doing, is raising that 7,000 to 11,515.
Okay, so Mrs. Smith made the motion. Everything is correct on the beautification board, but holiday lighting, amend that to 11,515. Moved by Mrs. Smith. Is there a second? Second. Okay, second by Mr. Higginbotham. Okay, any questions? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. Okay,
I've got a lot
5 to 0.
Smith and Higginbotham.
Mr. Higginbotham?
Oh, Smith Higginbotham.
Yes, yes, that's correct.
11,515. All right. Are you sure you don't want to cut the mayor's thing? I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing.
Mr. Higginbotham said.
Okay.
Councilor Jones, I have one simple question.
Yes.
The city hall maintenance, we've got $50,000 allocated. I was just curious what the allocation is for.
Well, this year, we're issuing a PO for, is it 38,000, JJ, for all the stones around? Yeah, we will be spending 50,000 this year redoing all the stones that are in the sidewalks that are uneven. We actually had a lady trip and we had a liability suit on it. What it will be used for next year is just funded for upkeep and maintenance of the city hall building. I know that in the past, we spent $15,000 pressure washing the building, and I looked at it today and it looks like it's looking dingy again. But that's what that line's used for.
I have two pet peeves that I would like to share as well.
Yes.
I'll send those to you.
And Melody, can I just make one little detail comment? The Historic Preservation Commission is listed as the Historic Preservation Society, which is, can we change it to commission? Because there is actually a historic society out there, but they're not under the city's purview. So if we could just make that adjustment so that it reads Historic Preservation.
It's going to be the same line number.
Yeah. We
Yeah,
just need to
just
change
change the
society
name.
to commission.
That's my
Okay,
fault. I think
so-
I labeled it the first place.
That's okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other changes on page 8? We've made a lot. We always spend time on this page because it is important.
Mr. Jones, can I correct something that I
Yes.
said? The original bid for the stones was $38,000. I believe Greg told me this week that he got it done he's going to get it done for like 19 or 20. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay.
Do we want to lower that a little bit from 50? Or do we have other things in addition to the stones?
I don't know what next year's going to hold. I mean, y'all can reduce it comfortably, and if something's needed, we can always come back to you, but.
But didn't we reclassify from capital?
Okay. Any
Yes,
thoughts?
yeah,
Did we reclassify that from capital?
Yeah, this was in capital in prior years. We just made it, because it's a maintenance item, so we made it in general fund.
Got it, okay.
This past year.
But the mayor's office has said, when JJ may can speak to it, if he's still back there, that because City Hall's getting older, there's some things that we have to address, like Robert said, because of liability issues and such, that we need to,
Okay.
and maintenance of just the building, because it's getting older.
Okay,
That's why
maybe we need to keep it
they put
at
that in there,
50
but
then.
it won't be spent if it's not needed, but is JJ back there? Did he speak to it? Did you have some other projects that we were looking at, or some repairs?
Pressure washing, coffee, and general maintenance.
Okay. All right. Going once, going twice. We're moving on. Okay. Page 9. These are our transfers. Should be straightforward. That summarizes general government. Any questions? Moving on to page 10, inspection services. Skip over salaries, et cetera. Obviously, engineering services probably was one question. We just have not expended that much. I know this is June 30 numbers, but do we feel comfortable with that 90? For engineering?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Where are you?
The 90,000 on page 10, engineering
That's Mr. Pugh. Is
services.
he still here?
Who would be here to address?
Mr. Pugh. That's
Mr.
his
Pugh?
department.
What's that?
Your engineering services, we're trying to figure out if that $90,000 is enough for y'all's engineering services line item.
Okay. Let me just talk about that for a second.
He reduced it, on the note too, if you look, he reduced it by 15 when the mayor called for cuts for trying to make it more level funding. So originally, he had asked for 15 more than that.
Barry, this is, this is from fiscal year 18-19, and then this is this past year, this is actual spending.
Okay.
This past year, we didn't
Spend as much.
as we did the year before.
Right.
This is actually what I'm requesting. There was 105,000 put in the budget. We anticipated using a lot more this year, but it just never got around to it. So anyway, that's.
Do you feel comfortable with that 90,000? Well, I mean-
That's my question. Are you comfortable with the 90, or do we need to adjust that a little bit?
I actually do feel comfortable with it. I'd hate to have to come back and ask for some after saying that, but it's a possibility that might happen. Nevertheless,
And I know this is just to June, but Robert, do we have a number past 43,938 from that line item?
I can get it if you want me to.
Well, I'm just wondering if we're going to be carrying forward anything that
Did we
would
not-
be added to that 90,000.
We allocated $12,000 out of that.
The PO that's been issued, we won't be carrying forward.
Mr. Gwaltney?
We allocated $12,000 for the stormwater issue on one of the streets, didn't we? Out of that
Kenilworth.
fund?
Yes.
So it'll go up to
Kenilworth, yeah.
65.
Is that part of this 43?
No, because this just goes to June.
Yeah,
that's right.
because I mean, I extrapolated that at 60 over 12 months that if we average that, but yeah, okay.
But it still seems like to me we're going to have some sort of carryover. No, we're
No
not.
question.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're okay with the 90?
I'm okay with it.
Okay,
Right.
okay, that was my
He said to
question.
me.
Yeah. Yes.
Is there something else?
Well, I was just gonna ask.
Well, we're gonna have lots of
Greg Cobb is
opportunities.
anticipating retiring in January. Or are you gonna need to be looking for outside contractor help in engineering?
Well,
Because see,
I didn't-
Clark Bailey mentioned we were going over the projects that that we might need to at that point, but I don't know if he talked to you or you talked to him about it.
He can't retire, so I'm sorry.
I guess if it happens, you're just going to push for the note that you might have to come back for additional money.
You know, I,
It's on the record now.
okay,
Yeah.
he's not officially given me a retirement
Right.
date. I mean, he's been for the past
saying that
couple
for
of
a couple
years.
of few years, yeah.
Yeah, he's been for the last couple of years threatening, so.
You think you keep him around?
Well, and I will say, he
I
did
don't know.
tell the Historic Preservation Commission the other night, because he's the staff representative for that board, he did say he had not formalized his plan yet, and he actually said end of the year, as opposed to, because I'd originally heard maybe October, but he said he wasn't planning on doing anything until the end of the year, and that still even sounded a little iffy.
Right.
This is where you say you reserve the right to come back and ask for more if
Okay, yeah.
circumstances
Can I do
change.
that? Yeah, if he does retire, I do believe I will need to be reaching out for some outside help until we replace him.
Okay,
But,
okay.
I'm sorry, you sent me an email last week about canceling the Pitney Bowes contract?
Yes, sir.
Is that the $180 that's in next year's budget?
Yes, that can be
remove that?
stricken, yes, absolutely.
The Pitney
Okay.
Bowes, we just sent a letter out to cancel the Pitney Bowes contract for $180, so.
Okay, so do I need to make a motion to remove
Yes,
that?
yes.
Okay, I move to remove the $180 charge for Pittsburgh.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Smith. Is there-
Second.
Mr. Harden? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign, 5-0. Okay, any other questions on page 10? That was my main question on that. Okay, moving to page 11. Any
I'm sorry,
questions
Mr.
there?
Jones. Mr. Jones, I'm
Yes.
sorry. In canceling his postage machine, we can also cancel his postage of $550.
Okay, come on.
Wait.
If you'll go back to, on the.
Under supplies.
page
Okay, I
10
see
under
postage
supplies.
mail, okay.
Postage slash.
Okay, so under that line item, the motion would be to zero that out as well.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Thames, second by Mr. Harden. Is that, okay. Okay, any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. That passes 5-0.
And they use the postage machine that Robert and I split the postage on from the second floor now, so that's fire does too now. Instead of having one upstairs, you come down here and use that postage machine.
Okay, the only other question I had was on demolition costs. Have we had any other expenses come in since June for demolition?
No, sir, and Mr. Pugh reduced that voluntarily from 25,000 down to 12,500.
Okay. You feel okay? Yeah, go ahead.
I do have one more. It's the one over on, which one is it? It's the one that Ben Tangy.
You might have a lot.
And 28.
Yeah, 28th Avenue, yes, sir. I've actually turned him loose to tear that one down. He gave me the lowest bid on that. That's going to be about 12,000. That's going to come out of this year's,
Unless you can get it done this month.
unless I can get it done this month.
It'll be next year's if you don't get it done this month or this year.
That's right. Well, he said he would get started on it Tuesday,
Okay.
so.
Okay, well, we'll keep that at 12.5 then for future. Okay. Okay, moving on, any other questions? Page 11, the old wireless. Pretty small. Okay, so total inspection services. Okay, any other questions on inspection services? Before we go to police, we're going to take a 5-minute recess.
President Rice.
Okay, we're back in session. Yes, everybody hopefully everybody's refreshed. Okay, now we're moving to the police department under general, and then Amy is here. We're going to, she can come up about 6. She wanted to address from the Sims Garden. So let's go ahead and start with police, professional services, and I know the chief did a good job with his budget, and there are lots of sacrifices we're all making due to kind of our situation. So I appreciate all the department heads and what they're doing to help us in this post-COVID world with some of our adjusted revenue. So in terms of expenditures, we're on page 12. We're not looking at salaries or anything like that. So you can see contractual services, chief. These are like your normal contracts that have been in place for a while.
Yes, sir.
Any questions on anything on page 12? Looks like you're coming down a little bit on your fuel, so that's good. Fuel cost.
Wait, am I on tab 3, page 12?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, tab 3, page 12, we're in the police expenditure.
Yeah.
Any questions for the chief? When I look at this, I kind of worry about physical fitness. It looks like your department's not physically fit with only spending $1,000 so far. So maybe it was a July.
Well, I think that budget or that line item has changed some since then, but traditionally what we spend a lot of that money for is our annual physicals, and we weren't able to do that because of the virus. It was, the elective stuff was very much done away with. So I plan, all things getting better as we hope, to continue that annual physical examination at our contracted occupational health clinic, St. Vincent's, in the coming year.
Okay, great. All right, any questions for the chief? Okay, moving on to page 13 then. Very straightforward. Always like to ask how our canines are doing.
They're doing great. They just actually recertified. We were fortunate to be able to take part in that up in Huntsville a couple of weeks ago, and both of our canines certified to national and state requirements, and we're very proud of the work they've done.
Shiloh and?
It's actually Vulcan and Captain Sutton, help me out with the other one's name. We had Shiloh and Justice. They were retired.
That's right. They retired. I was sorry. We had a second. That's right.
Jake's is sergeant, isn't it?
No, Jake's is, Jordan's is Vulcan, and Jake's, his name escapes me because we've had so many different canines rotate through the force. But Shiloh and Justice are doing great too. They're retired and they're with their original handlers.
They're on the farm. Okay.
Both of our dogs are doing very well. I appreciate you asking about them.
Thank you. All right. And then under contractual services, you can see there, feel free to ask any questions. We always want to learn something. What is Celebrite, UFED?
Celebrite is an investigative tool. We have a couple of my detectives that have an additional responsibility. They're assigned to a Secret Service task force. Secret Service provides us some hardware, and this is the software and the maintenance of that software and hardware to conduct forensic examinations on electronic devices, phones, laptops, iPads, and things like that.
Okay. Okay,
Can I?
sure, yeah.
And I'm sorry, because it is hard sometimes to see these lines all the way across, especially when there's a gap in the middle. But is this New World Software main $120,000, and what is that exactly?
Okay, that's our, Mr. Higginbotham, that is our record-keeping software. You know, many years ago, we went all paperless, we were electronic, and New World is our software system that we do all of our reporting on and all of our records management on. I'm glad you asked me that on the number. I think we budgeted, is it 120,000?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I got a quote on that yesterday, a more updated quote of 113,500. If we want to.
We like that, Chief.
If we would change that, that figure, you know, a lot of times things go up every year, and we anticipate it going up about 4% every year, but I did research that and got us an updated quote yesterday that I was prepared to give you, but we didn't get around to the police department. But so that will drop a little bit this year. But that is our record-keeping software system for us to be fully electronic in terms of report writing and so forth.
Do I need
Did you
to?
say 113,500?
Yes, ma'am.
So I would make a motion to reduce that, that line to 113.5 for the
Second.
chief's.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Smith, second by Mr. Higginbotham. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign, that's 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, what line item was that? I'm sorry, I walked in.
It was the New World Software main on page 14.
It's in our maintenance contracts.
Maintenance contracts on page.
Yeah, it's on page 14.
but-
Yeah, it's that actual line item's on page 14.
Who was the first?
Okay, any other questions? I know you want to know what Tango Tango is.
Yes, sir, that is communication software that allows our detectives, they're the ones that primarily use it, to be able to communicate via their two-way radio on their cell phone, their city-assigned cell phone. So it gives them a radio and telephone capability on the same device.
Nice.
Many times they're out of radio range. When they're out in the field, they could be out in another county investigating a crime, and they can't get out on the radio, so we want to give them the ability to communicate in different ways.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
Do we use Tombrello for a building we're having an alarm on?
Tembrello, we do have 2 alarm systems currently, and we use their services for those alarms in a couple of our other buildings. The main building that we use it for is for our vice narcotics. They're not headquartered at our headquarters. They're headquartered somewhere else for their security reasons and so forth, and we have an alarm there.
Did we vote on that, Walter?
I'm sorry?
Smith Higginbotham 5-0 for the 113,500?
Okay.
Yeah, we.
I didn't remember.
Yeah, we did. We voted on that.
You said yes.
Okay, good.
You said aye.
Good.
And then I was asking earlier, Chief, about kind of how you felt about the electricity.
Yes,
With
sir.
the new building. I know it's going to be a lot more efficient than the other building, but are you comfortable with that number?
200,000.
Yeah.
You know, last year we were advised by our architectural firm to budget what we budgeted last year, I think was 223 and some change. For a couple reasons, you know, it was the best estimate they could give us, and they felt like we were going to get in that new building much sooner than we did. We've only been in there since July. I looked at some power bills the other day, some electric bills. I'm comfortable knocking that down based on my estimates that I did yesterday, from 200,000 to 185,000.
Wow, you're.
Chief, you just.
I'm in a
We wanna keep you
generous
up here all night long.
generous
Example
mood
for all the
today.
other department heads.
But-
I love it.
Hey, wait a minute, he's got a bigger budget than some of us.
But, you know,
That's good.
we're just now experiencing some power bills, and I feel like we're at the height, at least that's the way it happens in my house. We
air
pay more
conditioning, probably.
this time of year than we pay in other times of year when the weather gets cooler. So I feel like we can budget for $185,000 instead of $200,000,
All right, well, I would move to.
based on my
reduce-
latest
Okay,
estimates.
moved by Mrs. Smith, second. Mr. Harden? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign, 5-0. Okay, good stuff. Any other questions on page 14?
I wanted to report that Officer Kidd's K-9 is shadow.
Shadow. Okay, great. You know, we've had Shadow, Shiloh, Justice, Vulcan, Buddy, probably some other ones that I'm forgetting.
Hey, Walter, I got one question. I can't help.
Yes, Mr.
The old Finance Committee member. On the K-9 supplies, back on 13, requested budget of 25,000, year-to-date 11,000. And I see it may just be you guys didn't spend that much this year because of pandemic.
We weren't able to take part in some of their annual training and even conferences because of the virus. And I know that there's been some, we may have some POs outstanding in that line item right now as we speak that may not be reflected on that, with that number. But we do anticipate, if this virus goes away or we get in more normal times, to be able to continue what they normally do from year to year in terms of training and equipment and so forth.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right, well, that's all of police at the end of page 14. Any other questions for the chief? All right, thank you, chief, for all you do.
Mr. Chairman.
We'll bring you back up for capital, I'm sure. But at least we got through general, so and thank you for those items there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving to fire. All right, down to supplies, we're on page 15. Now, Chief Hill?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions on page 15 from anyone? And you took some of your items down as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we did.
Okay, any questions? You have any good news for us?
Well, we cut where we could. Most of our things.
I know.
Most of our
I'm
things
just teasing. Well, hey, we did get the grant.
148,000.
148,000. Now, were you aware of that?
I was.
I know you were. So we're happy to get that on Tuesday night. That was fantastic. So
I was.
You upstaged Miss Muldy, so that didn't make,
Brandon had to bring it up again. I already gave him kudos the other night.
That's right. So, yeah, so that's a good reminder. Okay.
Wyatt Pugh gave $180 up for a postage machine.
So, yeah, that's big dollars. Yep, you add more of those, we might get to, I don't know, $1,000. Okay, page 16 then. Now, we want to learn something from the fire department. I remember one year learning about why the fire plugs are different colors.
Right.
And they used to be red, and now they're all different colors because of the amount of pressure that you're able to put through that. So
They're set up by NFPA, so if you have a blue hydrant in your yard, that's really good.
Okay.
If you have a green one in your yard, that's okay. If you have an orange or a red one,
that you're not
so okay.
You're not so good.
Well, we're talking about the pop. Everything's painted yellow on the barrel, just the top. Yeah.
Yeah. So the fire hydrant, I remember learning that one year, so that was fascinating.
It was actually, it's not just because we like.
And I remember
green.
And I remember somebody, I think, learning one year that it was a fourth grade student that came up with the idea to put the blue reflectors on the road detecting where the nearest fire hydrant was.
I actually heard that same thing, and it works good.
Incredible.
The reflectors work good.
So when you're driving, you see that reflector and you know right where the hydrant is.
And actually, it's one of our expenses, so we have to replace them. Cars run over them, the glue breaks loose. Wintertime is hard on them. So, but yeah, we actually have it's been a good project.
Yes,
ma'am.
Who do we rent the hydrants from? Did I see that also?
Birmingham Waterworks. Birmingham Waterworks. And that price is set by them.
Okay. And do they do any maintenance for y'all, or do y'all maintain them?
They do all the maintenance. We do all the testing, and we paint them. But they do all the, if anything breaks, if the hydrant breaks, we call them, they come repair it.
Okay.
Yeah,
And y'all have a designated person that takes care of that?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, moving on to page 17 then. that we've already talked about, the hydrant rental and maintenance, got all that. Okay. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Just out of curiosity, you said we're supposed to learn something, right? So what, I see the line item for fire prevention. What sort of fire prevention activities do we normally engage in over the course of the year?
Well, we go to like schools. We
Schools.
typically try to go to second grade and concentrate on that. And then the fire prevention account itself buys the red plastic fire hydrants we give out at parades and functions and coloring books for the second graders. State Farm's been a big partner, so we've actually cut our budget some. We used to buy coloring books and crayons, but State Farm's provided some of those. We actually, one year, actually had a coloring book made of actually firefighters from Homewood. It was actually, the cartoon characters were us.
Oh.
So that was, unique to us. But, so that's what it's for, stickers.
We do.
Now, the fire investigation account is for fire investigation.
Sure, I got that.
And I guess I should have been speaking into my mic the whole time. Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. Do we do any kind of fire prevention activities with adults as opposed to just kids?
If requested. So a lot of times we do them with the ARC, of Jefferson County. We do those. Some of the, every once in a while, homeowners association will call, like for Palmer Hill up here. So we do those kind of public safety speaking.
Do they get the plastic hats as well, or is that strictly?
They get the plastic hats.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was just curious what it was all in
And one
that.
other important question, I just want to make sure everybody's aware, what's the highest rating that you can get as a city in the state?
For
ISO.
one.
Okay, and what rating do we have?
We have a 1.
Okay. And that affects people's insurance rates, correct? It helps.
More so businesses than homeowners. It doesn't really
Okay.
affect homeowners tremendously.
Okay,
Businesses
but it helps businesses in
a lot.
terms of their rates.
Right.
Okay, sometimes we don't communicate that enough as to having the fire rating that we do.
Right, and we just went, the last time we got inspected, went from a 2 to a 1. So homeowners, like I say, it doesn't really affect you much, but businesses, it does. So.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to court management. We're getting into some departments here that are going to be
And
not.
John Morgan just texted me and said that he's on Zoom. That's the court department.
Hey, John. You on?
He said he was having trouble hearing us.
Okay, we're cutting your whole budget. No.
Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Yes, you. Okay, any questions? We're on page 18. He just has one page under general. So,
He has a lot of items that'll be in the special revenue funds when we get to those, because he pays for
Yeah.
restricted money.
I don't see any
Anything?
questions here.
Well, and I have a question.
Yes.
We were talking about doing installing the ATM for the courts. Is that
Yes.
going to come out of this year's budget or this budget?
We're working on bringing that to you for finance Monday night.
Okay.
But we're still working to see if there's gonna be any fees associated with that or not. So
Okay.
we'll have that for you before we finalize.
The plan is for there not to be fees associated.
That's
So
what we're
that there
trying-
would not be any kind of budget
We're
hit?
trying to have it where it's just revenue
Correct.
sharing or no cost to the
Right.
city. And it's just
Okay.
by the people that actually use the ATM.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. John, did you want to say something?
You're gonna cut my budget. Are you there?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
No, just do the best we can on trying to get everything out of general fund over to our restricted funds, but right now, we're just not able to do that, so.
Okay.
We're okay.
Okay, perfect. Okay, moving on then to sanitation, page 19.
Berkeley's on vacation.
Yeah, he said to be nice.
But he said we bled him dry. I will tell you that for his defense.
Okay, yeah, he is,
About
yeah,
every
we have,
line's been
yeah,
reduced
we've
on
had
him.
several calls with him.
He came personally to my office and we went line by line. He cut everything he said he could cut.
I was about to say, it looks like you cut fuel for sure. About 15,000.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Okay, and then the garbage dump rental is down. So that's good
He
news.
reduced it by 20,000.
Yeah, I thought that was still pretty high, but he feels good about 210, I
I asked
guess.
him, could we go any more? I mean, he actually came, when Robert sent the email out from the mayor, he actually came to my office so I could make the changes I need to. And I was like, you sure you can't take it down anymore? And he was,
Well, if we keep, our focus efforts, like Ms. Andrus, you've been working hard in educating the public about what you can recycle, and if we throw something wrong in there, you tackle us, and so you make sure that we're doing that correct with recycling. That lowers that number overall, so anything we can do.
Which we also, when we start talking about our contractual services agreement with recycling, we need to discuss that, because that's been a contention point the whole time of the education component of that really hasn't ever been.
Yes.
And when we go back to talk with Republic, I'd like to have Birmingham Recycling and Recovery with us when we have that conversation. That's something, Brett, isn't that what Chris Bartlett said? They want to be at the table when we have those conversations.
Okay. Okay, moving on, page 21, Street Department. Coming down on fuels. Any questions on any of that? Okay, moving on, page 22.
Walter, I have a question. Walter.
Yes.
In the last year's budget for thermal bond patching, my guess there's probably nobody here that's going to be able to answer this, but I'll take it with Berkeley. We did have a $20,000 budget. We only spent $1,000 of it, and we're going down to $7,000. That seems to be
I think
fine.
he said that they're working on getting the.
I just wondered how that was going, because I know that was a big deal.
That they're getting better at having people pay that directly. Did you hear that, Robert?
They're with the implementation of the street cut permits and the expense, they're actually having the utility companies or the plumbers, local whoever cuts the street, they're making the repairs.
Okay, all right, great. Then mission accomplished, I guess. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Moving on, page 22, finishing up street. Everything should be, okay, so we have moved from citation court, Fund 25 for these items here.
Yeah, we actually done that several years ago. I just put it as a we put it as a permanent note, but just that we used to have a separate department where we had a budget and we consolidated it with this street department.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the library, page 23. Any questions on page 23?
I'm here if you got any. I pretty much did level fund it this year, but my part-time people have been laid off since May. I've got 6 out of the 30 of them back, and I put the same amount in next year, we'll be adding them back as we add services back, but I don't anticipate having every part-time person back on board till probably January, just depending on how this pandemic goes. So
Okay.
we'll be turning in money next year as well.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if this is appropriate. Debbie, can you give us just a 30-second update on where it stands on the improvements? I don't know.
Yeah.
I know those are really in capital, but she may not be here for capital.
Well, we were supposed to do our final inspection tomorrow. It's been put off until Monday morning at 8 o'clock, but the furniture's going to be installed on Tuesday, and we have got a lot of furniture, which the furniture came in on time, but the project's run over, so rather than pay a big storage fee for all that furniture, I just stored it in the library since we weren't open to the public anyway. But it's everywhere in there, there's boxes everywhere. But anyway, we'll get that put in, and we've taken a lot of our furniture out, and we're following all the rules, for the pandemic, because all of our books are getting quarantined as they come back in before we recirculate them. We are doing curbside. We've had 1,400 to 1,500 cars a month coming through there, And so my full-time and my 6 part-time that I got back have working their tails off to work that curbside. And we've had a lot of really good comments about it. That's what the other libraries are doing. Hoover is pretty much open right now, but they're about the only one. And Mountain Brook's open 4 hours a day, and Vestavia's not open yet. But we hope to open after the runoff election and have all of our furniture. We want to get our computer lab moved upstairs. But when we do open, we're going to have to limit access, and we've taken a lot of the chairs out because we don't want people to come in there and stay all day. So, you know, we'll try to limit people to an hour, and some computers and stuff will be available to them. But if it's like the other libraries, they really like the curbside, so it'll probably, you know, we'll keep that up for now. And like I said, we'll be turning in money. But the facility is absolutely beautiful. Homewood Star's talking about featuring it for the November issue, so hopefully we can get them over and get some pictures of it and everything. But it's going to be real nice, but unfortunately, when we open it, we have 24 computer stations in there. We're going to have to limit it so that, you know, we can social distance, so we're not have as many available right at first. The project rooms are beautiful, but we're not going to be able to use them either until the pandemic subsides and everything. So, but anyway, as far as library stuff, we're providing quite a bit of services, a lot of online programming, apps being used like crazy, everybody's busy, and like I said, we're taking this opportunity to redo our job descriptions for our part-time, because since we laid everybody off, it gives us an opportunity to kind of, you know, reorganize and make things better when we do come back full force.
How many visitors do we typically have in a normal year?
Well, we usually have 35 to 40,000 a month. So
40,000 a month.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it's going to it's really going to, I just hope when we do open, we're going to have to limit it to about 30 at a time. And so I hope that, you know, we can successfully do that. Hoover limits, they have about 100 people in their whole building. Of course, their building's a lot bigger than ours. And she hadn't had too much trouble because people like the curbside, they don't want to come in, you know, with the pandemic and going on. So they hadn't really had too much trouble. So
Okay.
hopefully we won't, but Birmingham Public is closed till further notice, and so I'm not sure. I hope that since we're so close to Birmingham that we don't get overrun with people, you know, coming over to use computers, but we'll just have to deal with it, you know, once we get started. But tentatively, I'm looking at opening for short hours starting on October the 7th.
October 7th. Mr. McCluskey.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question about the electricity, similar to what we asked with the police chief. Is I see you got it levelized at 62 with the new construction and everything. Do we not foresee that electricity going up at all?
I don't see it going up a whole lot. I think we'll be okay, but I can tell you better after the first year.
Yeah, I just wanted to just check in.
She's reserving the right to come back next revision.
Okay, all right, so we'll keep it at 62.
I mean, I'm real careful. I always come under budget, and we always turn in money, and we're going to turn in more than ever this year because, like I said, the part-time's laid off. We haven't done travel and conference like we usually do. Programming, we've spent money on programming, but not to the point when we're having programs every day, like for summer reading and that kind of stuff.
All right, Mr. Higginbotham. Thank you, sir.
Two things. First, a comment and then a question. I just want to take this opportunity, Deborah, to say how excited I am about the new construction. I know this was your vision, and we've been praying and asking for that for years, and I'm waiting for those doors to open up so we can all go in there and take a look at it. The question I had for you, because it has been on my mind, because I assumed your part-times weren't there. Is there an expectation that we're going to lose a good number of the part-times when you start back, or do you think that they're still looking and still waiting for you to give them a job back, or what's the expectation?
Well, we've heard from some of them, but frankly, just to be honest with you, if Birmingham Public, if they're laying off as many people as they are, once we redo our job descriptions and we may change up some of these, we're gonna have to pick at some really good employees.
Big pool.
Yeah, to pick from. And of course, we have some great employees, and I'm hoping a lot of them will come back. A lot of our employees are retirees, and so, you know, they're my age and older. So they're not really in a hurry to get back around the public anyway, just to tell you the truth, so. And we would like some of them back as well, but we're gonna have, like I said, we did a layoff, so we'll advertise the jobs, and when we do it, I think we'll have our choice of some really good part-time staff when we start hiring back. But I don't think we'll get them all back till probably till January. But once we open, I may have to put a couple more back on just to cover some of the inside stuff when we start doing that.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right. Any other with library? Thank you for all you do. Okay, so Amy is here to talk to the Sims Garden. If you could come up and we're going to look at, so make a note, we're on page 25. Robert, can you make a note of that? And what we're talking about within, going back to page 8 and tab 3, we've got the Sims Garden at 30,000. And so there was I think there was an additional request for additional funds, but that would fall under capital. But I wanted Amy to be here to kind of speak to that, and I think you have some information for us.
I do.
Well, no, page 8 and then tab 3 is, yeah, so, yeah, so,
Page is where the Zoom page is.
okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, so y'all remember that I came before you guys and asked for some money to do some remediation work, and the result of that decision was to go ahead and get the construction documents done, and then, because the money hadn't been budgeted in 2020, and see what it comes back at. So this is me saying, let's go ahead and please budget for that in 2021, so that when we do get those construction documents back, we have the money budgeted already for that to happen. Because I don't want to be in that position again where it's like, oh, well, we hate to reallocate things we haven't budgeted for. So I have the phased budget, if y'all want to look at that again, just to see, it's 87,000. So yeah, it's the phased plan, Brian. These are some pictures, we can go through this. Okay, so here's the phase plan. So the total cost at the bottom is the total that it's going to cost to do the landscaping work. The stuff that's in red, the bioretention and piping, and the brick with concrete, the ADA compliant path, that's what is in that $87,560. So that's what that amounts to. The rest of it is what I'd need to fundraise for, unless y'all just decide to give me everything I need. That would be amazing.
So for this, okay, so for this particular, and so what we're talking about would be under tab 9.
Yes.
On page 3 is where we would need to add a capital item if we want to do that. I know we need to get an overall understanding of where we are with capital with all of our projects, but I wanted you to have the opportunity to speak to it, because you did bring it up at council a few weeks ago. So I wanted to make sure finance understood the 30,000 is for general, but this would be an additional capital expense.
And I'd like to explain that 30,000 too, that 10,000 of that goes to the Southern Environmental Center for their just overhead to manage it.
That goes directly to them, pass through, and then you just,
And
you'll
then
have
the
20.
20,000 is left for me to spend on mulch and all of the other maintenance needs, plants, printing for fundraisers. Y'all know we're doing 2 fall fundraisers, just any other sort of maintenance and requirements for the garden. So if there's any work that needs to be done on the house, if there's any work that needs to be done on the gardens, that's what that 20,000 is for. So for example, we've had tree limbing every 2 years, just limbing up some trees and removing a couple of dead trees out of the garden. We've had a little bit of landscaping work done on the side where the developers that have recently built homes on either side of the garden kind of left a little bit of a mess, and we had to kind of come back in. I also have some photos that are up on the screen now. This is what I'm talking about when I asked for the remediation work. This is the landscapers who've come through the back of the garden to access the alley to do the work in my neighbor's backyard. And this was after, you guys approved the vacation of the alley because they were gonna fix that stormwater back there. So this back corner here on the right side, we were looking at that today. That's still gonna be an issue because the neighbor on the north side, on the Irving side, kind of backed out of it. They're not doing their part of it anymore, so that's still gonna be an issue. If you go to the next slide, let's see what other pictures we have. There's a video as well. Okay, so I can look at the plan for a minute. So you'll see where that sort of alley part sticks out to the left of the plan. That's what the neighbors are fixing right now. And then where that connects into the garden, that's part of this remediation work. That's where the bioretention and piping will come in. And then the ADA compliant path is the other part of that. Okay, do you have that video also? Okay, so this is a video of issues that will not be corrected by the alley stormwater work. This is coming over the neighbor on Irving's driveway. So every time we get a heavy rain, they have a tiny little 12 by 12 inlet. If there's a ball on it or some leaves on it, it gets plugged up and this comes over into the garden. So that bioretention that I was just pointing out will deal with this, will capture this. And then that ADA compliant path doubles as a drain. There's a drain built through, that would be built through the middle of it that would catch anything that the bioretention can't hold or retain. Anything that overflows will go into that drain. So it's a pretty critical piece of the puzzle.
And I will say, I went over to Sims the other day with Amy and went out in the back, and it is truly a mess. And they're doing vital work, so it's a good thing that they have access
progress,
there.
but
It's progress, but there is a lot that needs to be fixed. Once that project is over, because you don't want to do anything until those guys are gone. But there's a lot of work to be done post that happening, because there's a big mess back there from them coming through the garden.
Absolutely, and since we did delay that work, the landscapers are finishing up now. Will be done by tomorrow with the main part of my neighbor's yard. Then the landscapers have to come in and finish her yard. So I still have to pay, the rest of my budget for this year is gonna go to putting a Band-Aid on all of that I just showed you, just laying some sod down, just making sure that we don't end up with a whole bunch of runoff and clay all scattered throughout the garden. So I'm still gonna have to put a Band-Aid on it before this work that I'm asking y'all to budget now will happen. That makes sense. And I also want to plug our fundraisers. If Brian has a picture of the fundraiser graphics, I just handed a flyer to Melody Salter, but we're doing 2 fundraisers this fall. One is a take-home tea party that Little London Kitchen that just opened up in West Homewood is catering. You'll place an order for a tea service for 2. You have 3 levels to choose from. You have to place that order by August 1st and then pick it up from Sims Gardens on October 30, anytime between 1 and 4.
August?
October 1st.
You mean October?
Yeah, October 1st, what'd I say?
You said August.
Oh, October 1st.
Like me.
Yeah, place your order by October 1st at 5 p.m. and then pick it up from Sims Gardens on October 3rd. And this is in honor of Miss Sims. Her birthday was on October 1st. She would have been 105 this year. So I want to make this a yearly tradition. So it's just a one-day event. And then we have a Pumpkin and Mum fundraiser. It's a sale that's starting this Saturday. I just unloaded a whole bunch of pumpkins today and mums to kick it off this Saturday. This is going to be really exciting. I'd love for this to become a tradition as well. There's really nowhere that you can go to get pumpkins other than a grocery store unless you drive 45 minutes or an hour outside of Homewood. But people can come to the garden and pick them like out of a pumpkin patch. And the neighbors are getting involved in it. We're going to do a scarecrow trail where all the neighbors are making their own little scarecrow, and then you can vote on which one you like the best. And we're going to have some, pumpkin spice coffee and treats, so it'll be really fun. I sent y'all all a sign-up, Genius, so that you can come volunteer for an hour one day if you want to. Rotary is volunteering to help man the sale, as well as the Edgewood Garden Club and several other neighbors. We've got a great group of volunteers that are helping with that as well. So I'm really hopeful and excited about these.
And do we have that in a form that you can email to us so that we can post it out on social media?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. It's on my Facebook page as an event.
Okay.
I've been sharing it around Facebook and on Nextdoor, but I have all kinds of different size graphics, so just let me know what you want.
Counselor Jones?
Yes.
I did have one question. Amy, can you elaborate on the $10,000 that we give to the Southern Environmental Commission and what they, not commission, No, it's commission.
Center.
Center, thank you.
Environmental Center, yeah.
What they provide for that money?
So they're just providing the overhead management. I mean, I answer to them. They pay the water bill. But apart from that, I'm not sure where that money goes. Apart from paying the water bill, it doesn't come back to the garden. It's just, from my understanding, it's just paying them for managing.
Is that a contractual obligation, and do you know if it has a timeline?
So I'm a little out of my depth answering that question.
That's okay.
But
I can find out.
Yeah, I got a copy of the memorandum of agreement, but it's really old. I don't know if there's an updated version.
I'll have to look at that and see if we're still.
Because if it's not a contractual obligation, that's a lot of money that you could use for the garden. I'd like to see about cutting that, because we could pay a water bill.
And in fact, the water bill is in the city of Homewood. It comes in the city of Homewood's name, but
Yeah.
it's paid from the Southern
I mean,
Environmental Center.
I'll pay the water bill for $10,000.
I'm gonna make notes, look for it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what, okay.
Yeah.
What is
I
the
would pay the water
request under capital for this upcoming fiscal year?
The additional, it's that $87,560.
87,560, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll make a note of that. That would be a new item that we would put in here. So what we'll do is that when we get to capital and talk about all the projects that are out there, we do have some good news and bad news on the projects, and we'll talk about that. And then we'll put that in the equation and determine if we can make that happen for this fiscal year. So but I wanted you to be here to speak to that tonight.
When will that discussion happen?
Either tonight or the next one.
Okay.
It's supposed to start tonight, but it's going to be Tuesday. It's going to be, yeah, we're having too much fun. So it's going to be Tuesday, so it's going to push things back a little bit.
Okay.
But, you know,
And Dr. Jones, I put it underneath where we have all we just added the West Oxmoor Lane rewidening to talk about that. I'll just add, it's not gonna have an item number, but I put Sims 87,560 to talk about under capital
Okay.
for the agenda that we make for the next one.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, let's see if we can get finished with general. You think we can do that? What page are we on, Robert? Oh, perfect.
Thank you.
Park and Rec. Salaries, we're skipping those. Moving down to contractual services. So we got the litter getter.
Yes, sir.
Some good, that's an amazing apparatus, how it doesn't roll down the stream.
We have two of them.
We have two of them, that's right. Incredible, incredible.
He's already been promoted.
Yep. Okay. When you're doing invoices, you see a lot of these every time. Tree removal. Yeah, okay. Moving on to page 26, if there are not any questions, if you see something that you'd like to get answered.
What is the HCC music?
It's a music, they have to have the license.
The licensing agreement, the royalties.
Hey, and Robert, I want to point out, because the project did us in, that his contractual services went down, because, you know, we did that executive time to combine, you know, we had a bunch of departments using different timekeeping systems that had different contracts. So now we have executive time that's in 0111 contractual services, and so each department's not budgeting for a different time clock. That was a huge project for this year, so we wanted to, that's why Berkeley's went down from 397 to 341. Okay. I can't say that's all that, I'll have to look, but a lot of it is that.
Is that, can I ask a question on pest control? Is that for all our facilities, or we're spending 13 grand for pest control?
That is just park facilities, park and rec facilities.
All park and rec.
It just said new facility, and I thought it was for our new safety center. I thought, that's unbelievable. Okay.
Okay. All right, any questions on page 26? Moving on to page 27. He reduced some of these things, you can see the notes.
Hey, Walter, back to 26, just, I'm sorry.
Yes, go
If I may. Because it is a big number. I just want, I don't know if anyone here knows, but on landscape maintenance supplies, we did only spend 68,000 of a 164 budget so far to date. I know there's a few more months. I'm assuming that's still another pandemic issue that we weren't able to get people out to do. It's just a big drop, but,
Well, again, that number is just through June 31st.
yeah, I know it's still,
There's going to be,
He has a large amount of expense that comes in at the end of the year, in that line item. He has
Okay.
that every year, it comes in at the end of the year.
okay, I'll trust Berkeley to that.
Okay.
He did cut it, if you look, he cut it by 3,000. He seems to think that was
Yeah.
all he could cut it by.
No, cut it by.
By 6,500.
6,000.
A landscape
Or
maintenance.
55.
65, 68.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
On page
Okay.
27, it says 3,000.
Yeah, he cut it by 6,000.
Or 120.
All right, utilities, pretty straightforward. Other expenses,
Oh, well, this next one right here. That next one.
Oh, yeah, should be.
all right.
64,
Page 28. Those are just notes from previous, he reduced both of those. Okay, any other questions? Moving on to fleet maintenance, page 29. Supplies, contractual services. Okay, any questions on that? Ms. Melody, I didn't see the notes for generator service contract. Were there any notes on that, or did I get?
Generator service.
Oh, here it is, two
Yeah,
new
it says
generators
nine.
will have to be in place, okay. For the new police department building, okay, got it. Okay, page 30, any questions? Yes?
Mr. Chairman, the copier lease under contractual services for fleet maintenance,
Yeah.
it seems like it went from 140 to 1,600, am I reading that right?
140 per month.
Per month,
Okay.
yeah, that's 1680 per year.
Okay.
And then I don't know about what the overages, what that entails, I guess
You
that's
get a
just.
certain amount of copies
if-
and color copies.
If they're doing
and
more
if you have
copies.
On that, you have a.
Okay, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Then why do we have a time clock lease?
That's one department we have yet to get on executive time besides fire.
Well, you said you got all of them off.
All the good ones. No,
Well,
I'm just teasing. All the
I'm just teasing.
cooperating ones.
Let me say this, fire department right now is because they're 24-hour shift and executive time is trying to build a program to accommodate that. Gordon,
Gordon did not want to change because he did not want to go to a biometric clock, and that is all that this particular company is offering.
we'd love for you to call him if you want to.
Nope, I touched a nerve, 360 a year, that's reasonable, so that's no problem.
They don't have a punch-in, punch-out clock.
Okay, let's move on to page 30. Utilities. Gordon has always had a very tight budget, very.
So you know he's the one department head without an email address, you email Laura, so then you ask about the dog.
Yep.
If you try to do Gordon.James, you won't get an email response.
He won't check it. All right, any questions? Moving on to,
Can I
yes.
ask one question?
Sure.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at the tuition in schools, and I see that we budgeted 3,000 and we only spent 423 through June. I'm sure COVID had some role in that, but then I'm looking at the previous years, and the 3 previous year actual, the highest we ever spent was just under 1,400. I mean, I know it's just 1,000 here or there, but is there some reason why he thinks 3,400, which is even higher
Well,
than we budgeted this year?
I don't know why he went up on it. I think he budgets that, I hate to answer for him, but we can ask him, but it may be in case his mechanics end up going for the ASC certification, but we can make a note and ask him.
Yeah, I'm just.
Make a note of that, please.
And also for the uniform rental right below it too, same reasoning. 12,000, about $5,000 difference all the previous years. and only 5,000 this year.
Okay, ask about that as well.
Okay.
Don't email them though, call them.
You can't email, you just, Laura.Smith.
Okay. All right, so we'll, and then before we start our meeting on Tuesday, we'll go back and get all these questions answered that we had. So, Robert?
I'm just wondering, Stella, how much?
Okay. Okay, moving on to traffic light maintenance, page 31. Okay,
And, Mr. James, I know we're not on payroll right now, but we get on that's split on payroll between the 7-cent gas tax fund and the general fund.
got it, okay.
It's restricted money that we can use for
30%
travel.
from general. See, overtime, 30% from general, 70% from 7-cent.
When you go to the payroll worksheets, you'll see that
Okay,
breakout.
very good, okay. Any questions on page 31? All right, page 32, contractual services. Got the elevators. All right. All right. Utilities should be pretty straightforward.
Which one is he gonna have to start?
Okay, moving on, page 33. He took tuition in schools down, even though there's not been any in it so far. His overall funding went down from last year. That's what we're looking for.
I will say on Randy's, on that tuition in schools, if anybody asks why there's nothing spent, he's had a vacant position, which we talk about the payroll, that he hasn't been able to get filled because of personnel board issues. So he's hoping to get that filled before a year end, and he's going to need to send that person for training.
Got it, okay. Okay, moving on, page 35. Maintenance. We're getting into some smaller departments here. Any questions on that?
I assume that the building repairs and maintenance line item here, that's for all the facilities?
Well, that's Lee Garrett. He reports to White Pew. It's a two-people department, but it's mainly for City Hall repairs, because if he goes to other places, that he usually charges it to their repairs, like Park.
Okay, well, I thought we had the City Hall line item on
We
the other.
we do, but that's because we put.
That would be for an outside contractor, where this is for in-house.
Oh, okay.
And it was because, like JJ was saying, that we had some things that they said that we were gonna have to do because City Hall is getting older. So that's why we put that no 111, in case we have to do some of the repairs, like, for instance, the patio out there had some uneven stuff and that kind of thing, but,
This is just for Lee to do the things that he does.
It's not part of the salary, it's just supplies?
I'm sorry, what now?
What is the money going to?
Building material, it's for.
Supplies and building materials?
Yeah.
Yeah, any product that he might need to.
His salary, and there's a two-person apartment, their salaries are in salaries, but it's just for any type of materials he has to buy, or that type of thing to repair City Hall. I mean, like the light bulbs and stuff, like today he was working on light bulbs in here, trying to get that and that kind of stuff.
Still dark. Okay, okay, any other questions on maintenance? Let's finish quickly here. IT expenditures. You can see the contractual services there.
Just a question, so I'll know what I'm looking at. Under the maintenance contracts, this out-of-warranty brake F, what is that?
We'll have to ask James Yates.
This is James Yates. I'm on Zoom.
Oh, hey.
Yes,
Mr. Yates.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
It should, it must have got cut off, but it's a break fix money. Like if something in some IT structure breaks, there to put it back fixed.
It only lets you put so many characters in the budget detail, so
No,
that's why I got cut off.
Yeah, I understand. I just wanted to know what it
Yeah,
was.
okay.
Yeah.
That's all I didn't know, but that's what happened.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
That antivirus number seems low.
Is your antivirus number big, okay?
Yes, sir, the other numbers, I cut as much as I could out of the budget, but I took things that, I have a layered approach for email. So I have a lot of appliances and cloud services and stuff like that that takes care of it. But this year, I plan to move into Exchange Online and just keep some cloud services to protect against antiviruses and stuff like that. But the budget, a lot of stuff I usually have was cut out, and it actually raised my item by about $4,000 to have the pay for the user clients for Exchange Online. But the reason I left it in there is that has to be done. Our Exchange server is about end of life.
Got it. Okay. And I'll just say the Wi-Fi in the parks has improved from feedback I get from constituents. If there anything that we need to do to improve that, please let James know.
Hey, Walter,
Yeah.
I don't know that it's back in at Patriot Park. I don't think I've noticed it back online over there.
If it's off at Patriot Park, I'll check it tomorrow and see what's going on.
Okay, please check that.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you, James.
Okay,
Go ahead.
page 37, IT expenditures.
Mr. Yates, can you remind us what the Cerium or Cyrum, whatever that is?
Yes, ma'am, that's our hosted VoIP phone system.
Wait, what now?
What?
It's a hosted VoIP, voice over IP phone system.
Okay, that's
It's also
the phone system, okay.
Oh, bless your heart.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. And we're going to stop there. I apologize for going over. We're going to cut finance when we meet again on Tuesday.
It's just 2 pages, you need to go and finish when you start at capital.
No, we know you're going to be here on Tuesday, so we'll take that up on Tuesday, and then we'll get right into capital. We're probably going to have to make some amends to our future meetings. I thought we would get through I thought we'd get through capital, but we have not, so we might have to move things a little bit along, but in light of that, we're going to continue the meeting until Tuesday, the 15th, unless someone has any other additional comments for the good of the order. Okay, so we're continued